Hi everyone, thanks so much for joining me today for our webinar on strategic marketing on a shoestring budget. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is Kristy Bailey. I'm the presenter and advisor for Business Station as part of the Digital Solutions program. Today, the webinar is designed to be as interactive as possible. I can see someone has put their hand up already, so if you'd like to ask any questions or stop me at any time, please feel free to do so via the chat or the Q&A functionality. So if you've got a question, just type it in there and I will answer those as I go. Just keep in mind, I will also stay on at the end for a few minutes to allow some time for some questions as well, but by all means, do raise any questions as they come along. And for that person that does have their hand up, if you do want to pop in a question, fire away. So we do have a lot to get through today in this 1 hour webinar, but essentially what we're going to cover is looking at the components of a marketing strategy and then having a look at your marketing plan and how if you do have a strategic approach and a formulated strategy, it can in fact have huge financial benefits and therefore allow you to market on a shoestring budget. We're also going to identify a range of low-cost marketing tactics that I think you will be able to implement within your own business. Depending on where you're at in business, you might have an understanding of some of these areas already, or you might need further information. So because we do have a lot to get through today, it's really going to be a touch on a lot of these tactics and a bit of an intro into what those tactics might look like, how you could potentially apply them to your business. But I would highly encourage you to reach out to our advisors or through our other webinars to find more information on those specific topics. Keeping in mind that we've got a range of more than 25 advisors across the states that we cover, which is WA, Queensland and NT, that all have really niche experience and in-depth knowledge on a range of different digital aspects of your business. So there's certainly a lot more information and help available. This will just give you a broad overview. Towards the end, we'll just look at the importance of measuring and controlling your marketing activities as well. And that's really to ensure that you're producing sales and spending your money more effectively and really quantifying what you're actually spending your money on. Okay, before we do start to get into the strategic side of things, I think it's really important to define marketing. It really is anticipating the needs and wants of targeted customers and managing the process through which those needs and wants are satisfied. But in doing so, you have to do that profitably. Now, a really key word here, or a couple of keywords, one is targeted. You have to know exactly who you're selling to so that you can know their specific needs and wants, and you can therefore provide them exactly what they want and provide that to them where and how they want to receive it. Obviously, the profitability aspect of things is absolutely crucial as well, because you could spend a lot on marketing, not be getting your return, or you could be spending a lot on advertising but not have the right profit margin, and making lots of sales but not have the right profit margin, so still not be profitable. So keep that in mind. And also keep in mind that one of the key elements of today's webinar is looking at the theory that successful marketing doesn't have to cost your small business significantly, but you do absolutely need to know the results of what you're doing so that you can ensure that you are spending your money in the right areas. So looking at tracking it all and bringing it all together that way. And that's where strategic planning comes into it. So a lot of small business owners create a business plan when they start up. A lot of time goes by, and with the day-to-day running of your business, perhaps you haven't referred back to that plan in a little while, if at all. And I find that a lot happens in small business during the period of when you first started up until even a couple of years in. You will have learned a lot and adapted your business accordingly. Priorities could have shifted. You could have introduced new products or services, had key staff come and go. So keep that in mind. I think it's really important to have a look at that really important process of annual planning. That will really make sure that you are marketing effectively and reaching your goals if you're continually reviewing what they are. So each year, I would encourage you to take the time to measure your progress in terms of sales as well as marketing. Assess the specific steps that you're going to take in the coming year to make sure that you do stay on track and stay accountable to those. That will then tie in with your marketing strategy and being able to market in a cost-effective way. So to define the strategic planning elements of your business, I'd have a look at this pyramid that you see on the screen now. Now, the marketing strategy has to align with the overall business plan and the business goals. So you see the business goal sits at the bulk of this particular pyramid. That is the core of why your business exists and how your business is going to progress. So your marketing strategy will align with that so that the goals are similar, well, aligned, I guess. Sorry to use that word twice, but that's really the key thing, to make sure that you are aligning the goals. And your marketing strategy really defines your marketing mix, which is your price, product, promotion, and your place, so your distribution of your product, and we'll expand on that shortly. And then your marketing plan is very simply the implementation of it all. So that's allocating your marketing resources, implementing various marketing activities, and then budgeting for it as well. So that second element is sort of what we're talking about here. What is a marketing strategy? Well, it's a selection of a course of action that really involves specific customer groups, and we will expand on target markets and customer groups. Also your communication methods, your distribution channels, your pricing structures. So it's a combination of your target markets and your marketing mixes. And the advantage of it is that it allows you to find and use what really works and then stay focused. So depending on where you're at in your business at the moment, you may or may not have a marketing strategy. But essentially, I'm going to talk through now what key sort of areas you should consider if you are developing a marketing strategy. But keep in mind, for a lot of small business, the thought of developing a marketing strategy sounds a bit overwhelming, and perhaps you would think that there's a lot of overhead involved with that. And a lot of advice that you might get from a marketing agency might be around spend and actual paid activities, which of course, the more you advertise, strictly speaking, the more customers you should get through the door. But what we know with small businesses, it's not always viable to focus on advertising. You have to look at a range of, like we were saying earlier, low-cost marketing tactics to really get your business name out there and generate that interest. In terms of the development of a marketing strategy, it doesn't have to be expensive. You can absolutely do it yourself. It is a little bit time consuming. You do have to put in the time and the effort, but essentially it's your blueprint going forward. So it's going to tell you exactly what you should and shouldn't spend your money on, who you're communicating to. It'll unlock all the answers. So it's definitely worth putting in that extra effort and developing it, and effort and time, I guess, is the key thing to develop that marketing strategy to move forward. So this is what you see on the screen are some of the key strategy areas that I would recommend you incorporate in a marketing strategy. Now, strategic planning is an extensive process. For me to develop a marketing strategy that would incorporate all the things that you see on your screen here takes a number of weeks. And that's the reason being for that is that you have to obtain information, you have to analyze that information, and you'll go back and forth and ultimately develop a strategy around everything that you've learned. So it's not the kind of thing that you want to sit there and do in sort of one sitting. There's too much. You'd have a bit of overload if you tried to do it like that. So I prefer to take a little bit of extra time and just allow that back and forth in terms of doing a bit of research, having some time to process that, analyzing the research. One question generally leads to another when you're doing research. So that's where the time sort of factor comes into it. But some key strategic research areas that I would include in my marketing strategy are as listed up there. And I'm going to run through some of these and then we're going to expand on some of them as well. Some of them are pretty basic. Your SWOT, you may have heard of a SWOT. It is sort of marketing 101, and that's an analysis of your strengths, your weaknesses, your opportunities, and your threats to the business. Now, strengths and weaknesses are internal factors, and opportunities and threats are external factors that have the ability to impact your business positively or negatively. A pest analysis or a pestle analysis, depending on your business, is basically an analysis of external factors that have the ability, again, to either positively or negatively impact your business. And that acronym stands for political factors, economic factors, social factors and technological factors. So that's the 4 core factors that we would consider in a pest analysis. But there is that extension of that to a pestle analysis if you incorporate environmental and legal factors. So depending on your business, whether or not the environmental and legal factors are relevant or not. But essentially, with both a SWOT and a pest or a pestle analysis, you're brainstorming and developing a list of these factors. So your strengths and weaknesses, that's when you're looking at your own company to determine where are you strong and where are their potential weaknesses, opportunities and threats. You're looking externally. And then with your pest or your pestle, it's all external factors. It could be something, let's say there's a political factor, there's an upcoming national election. So that has the ability to impact your business. There's nothing you can do about it, but it's an area that you need to absolutely be aware of. So that's the idea of this. Sometimes you can do things about some of the elements that are listed here. Other times, it's just a matter of being aware that this is a factor that can impact your business. A competitor analysis is absolutely crucial. Now, because there are so many businesses coming in and going out of the market, I would definitely look at a competitor analysis at least on an annual basis, if not more regularly, if you do notice that there are competitors coming in. Now, a competitor analysis is where you're looking at direct and indirect competitors that are relevant to your business. So I would assess your own company against them, having a look at what your strengths are and your weaknesses are, what the strengths and weaknesses are of the other organizations or your competitors. I'd have a look at what value it is that they're pitching to customers. So what are they actually saying that their unique selling proposition is, or what is their main pitch to their target markets? So having a look at absolutely everything you can find, from their pricing to, going onto their website, having a look at what that looks like, what their product range is. So a dump of absolutely everything you can find on your competitors. It is a little bit time consuming, but this is a really interesting process, going onto their websites, going onto their social media channels, and maybe interacting with them, maybe going into that store if there's if it's a bricks and mortar sort of store, or doing an inquiry online or whatever that might be, but having some kind of interaction so you can see how they behave and how they treat their customers. And what they're offering, essentially. It could identify areas where you are particularly strong, or it could identify areas where they're better than certain things at you, and you can therefore improve. So that's a really interesting thing to do, and I highly recommend that you do that regularly. Sometimes when you're doing this research, you identify that there are competitors that have entered the market quite quietly, sort of behind the scenes, and you're not even aware of. So that's why it's something that I would actively do every 6 to 12 months. A sales analysis is really important as well. Now, this is an analysis of your own sales results, plus the development of some planned growth areas. So what your future sales are anticipated to be, plus are there any areas of growth by way of products, seasonality, extensions, that kind of thing. So really analyzing your sales. I would go back at least a few years. At the moment, I would normally say, 2 to 3 years of analysis is quite good. But if you keep in mind 2020 and 2021 and even into 22 are strange years. They're not your typical normal sort of period. So maybe if you haven't done an analysis of your sales, have a look at an annual comparison, even in a couple of years before COVID came along. So 2018, 2019, then 2021, and how we're going so far into 22, and just have a look if you see any trends in terms of growth, decline. I would compare year-on-year sales and month-on-month sales. So have a look at every month and then compare that to the same month in previous years, and then obviously total it up per year, whether that be calendar or financial. So your own sales analysis is really important. Your unique selling proposition and really defining what that is crucial. Now, through your competitor research, you'll know what your competitor's unique selling proposition is. And obviously, if everybody in your particular niche or your particular market is saying that their unique selling proposition is the same thing, all you do is confuse your target market. So you need to find what it is about your business that makes you truly unique and stand out from your competitors. And then that is what you're going to focus on in your marketing. Obviously, there is a key thing here, and it's about knowing your target market, which I've got next on my list, and knowing that what you're actually pitching is something that they want. So there has to be that mix between the two. You can't just be saying we're unique because we're this, but nobody actually wants that. So you have to find what it is about you that is truly unique and is desired by your target market. So that leads into your target market. We're going to talk about that in depth shortly because it is such a crucial component of marketing, particularly on a shoestring budget. When you know exactly who it is that you're talking to, who it is that you want through your doors, you know exactly where they consume media, therefore you know where to advertise, and no advertising dollar should be wasted. So we'll expand on that. We're also going to expand on your marketing mix, which is your 4 Ps, your product, price, place, and promotion. Financial analysis and budgeting is really important as well. Actually budgeting for marketing. How do you budget for marketing? I get that question all the time. And it's a difficult one for small business because you have to budget based on what you know you can afford. But generally speaking, you should aim for spending between 4 and 10% of your gross revenue, or the equivalent, on marketing. And it's said that 4% will maintain your current position, whereas if you push it up to that 10%, you'll grow your market share essentially. But you have to estimate what the demand is going to be based on what your pricing and your promotional strategy is. So what are your price levels, who your target market is, and then where are you going to be communicating this? When you're doing marketing budgeting, you also have to think about expenses that are associated with the production of ads, or, even development of your website, that kind of thing, as well as the actual advertising. So it could be pay-per-click advertising, or it could be traditional advertising, but you have to not just look at an advertising budget. It has to be a broad marketing budget. In this budget, you will determine anticipated cash flows based on this advertising or this marketing. And obviously a cash flow is a core component of a business to know when you can actually spend on marketing as well. In your budgeting, you also have to factor in critical assumptions. So what are those critical assumptions around what you're aiming for by way of sales and budgeting, and what are the impacts of any changes? So there's a lot to consider in a marketing strategy. Some of those areas are really straightforward and obvious. Some of them require a lot more explanation. So I'm going to expand on those now. But do keep in mind, we have a really good template, and there are a range of marketing strategy or business planning templates available. So if you do want a template and sort of a structure that you can follow and you can fill in the gaps, just reach out and let us know. So pop your email address either on the chat, or just say, yes, please send it to me, and we'll make sure that you get a copy of that as well. Okay, so having a look at target markets, I've touched on this a bit, and if anybody has spoken to me in the past or experienced one of my webinars or workshops, it's something I talk about all the time because I do believe it's the most important component of a marketing strategy and of marketing. You have to truly know your target market. Now, a target market is a market segment that has been selected by your business for marketing attention. So that's really important. It's actually been selected by you. So it's perhaps not who comes through your door at the moment, but who you want to come through your door. Now, you will have determined that through research and an extensive research on your competitors, on your own strengths and weaknesses, on consumer behaviors and trends and that kind of thing. So through this research, you might find that there are target segments that no one's currently communicating to. There could also be target markets that are being served by your competitors at the moment and perhaps not very well. So there's an opportunity for you. Or there could be other target markets that are completely saturated with options. So you know they're going to be a lot more difficult to get to and to convert as customers. So do expect that you'll get a bit of a range when you're doing research. Now, to be a viable market segment, a segment has to meet, or a target market, sorry, has to meet 4 criteria. The first is that the individuals or the businesses within that segment have to be homogenous, and that means they all have to be alike. The second is that the segment has to differ from the general population and be different from other market segments. So you might have, 2 or 3 market segments, as long as they're uniquely defined and clearly defined so that they very much differ from one another, that's absolutely fine. The third is that they have to be large enough to be financially viable to support their own marketing campaign. Now, some market segments meet the first 2 criteria, but then they're too small for you to actually spend any money or marketing attention on. And that's fine. Chances are, if they're coming to you already, that they'll keep coming. Or if they're not, then it's potentially, not worthwhile because the numbers just don't stack up. The last criteria is that they have to be reachable through some type of media or communications method. Now, there are some market segments around the world, in different parts of the world, that are really difficult to get to by way of media. But keep in mind that, and we don't really see that here in Australia as much, but what we do see is market segments where the decision maker differs from the end user of a product or service. And kids are a really good example of this. So you might be advertising to the mother or the father, the parents, whereas the child is the user of your product or service. So just consider who is actually making the decision. And that's going to be your target market in terms of any particular product or service, not necessarily who the product is for. Now, in terms of marketing segmentation, it basically involves dividing your customers into groups or market segments with common characteristics. They can be segmented or divided along a number of different dimensions. The most common is demographics because it's the easiest, but other areas to consider are psychographics, perhaps generations, geographic locations, and also benefits and usage. So keep that in mind. And through research, you will look into consumer behavior and really determine those needs and wants, and the benefits and usage will sort of come from that. But keep in mind, if you don't have a clear image of your target market, as a small business, you try to reach almost everyone. And what happens is you end up appealing to almost no one because it's just too diluted. Your message is too diluted. So you should be able to really hone in on your target market. You should be able to describe that person, even visualize them. And we want to know absolutely everything about them: gender, age bracket, where they live, what sort of job they might have, what their family situation is, their family income, absolutely everything that you can possibly think, and then define that exact person. When you know who that person is, as I said, you know exactly where they consume media and therefore exactly where you can advertise to them. And that should mean that not a single marketing dollar that you spend is wasted because you're only putting your product in front of that core target. So keep that in mind. And that's why target markets and this whole strategic approach is absolutely crucial to marketing on a shoestring budget. You don't want to waste any dollar. Now, the next area is marketing mix. Now, a marketing mix is really the controllable factors that have been chosen to satisfy your customer needs. So there's 4 controllable factors, and that's product, price, place, and promotion. Now, you may have heard of, and that's the 4 Ps, but you may have heard of the 7 Ps if you include people, processes, and physical environment. So depending on your business and what industry you're in, it could be 4 Ps that you look at from a strategic approach, or it could be the 7 Ps. So definitely consider the other 3. We're going to talk about the main 4 today because they really are the core that sort of relate to every business. Now, first of all, your products. Thinking about your product range, what is your product range? Do your products complement each other? And do your products suit who you've identified as your target audience? Or if you've identified perhaps a new target audience, or you've learned something about your target audience, do you need to make any changes to appeal more to your target market? A really important thing to know is you cannot expect a consumer to change their needs and wants to suit your product or service. You will always have to adapt your product or service to adapt to suit the needs and wants of your customers. And you have to understand that they can change. And through social trends and a range of different reasons, needs and wants absolutely do change. So really have a look at that. Have you aligned your products with your core target market? Price is really important. How does your pricing suit your target market now that you've done some research into who they are? Also, how does your price compare to your competitors now that you've done competitor research? Also consider how each price in your product range looks alongside other products or services. So does your pricing make sense, essentially? Now, I find sometimes if you've got products that are quite similar, but the price tag is extremely different, how do you justify that to your target market or to your consumers? Does it make sense, or do they get confused and go, well, why is this one so much more? I just don't understand. So really laying out your products and the prices and making sure that if your customers were choosing across all of your products and services, is there clarity there on why they should choose certain products and services over others? Also considering your pricing allowing for enough profit. That's a really key thing. I speak to many businesses, and when I say, what's your profit margin on this particular product, businesses just don't seem to know that specific data on individual products and services. They just kind of know, yes, I'm profitable at the moment as a business, but it's really important to know what your profit margins are. Then that sort of tells you how much you could potentially discount or run other promotions, what you want to focus your attention on in terms of you selling more of the more profitable products and services, perhaps decreasing the sales on less profitable products and services so you can focus on the more profitable areas. So lots to consider around pricing. Your place or your distribution. This is really where buyers look for your product or service. Is it online? Is it through direct sales? Is it via some kind of reseller? Is there some kind of wholesale arrangement there? Thinking about your business, how can you access the right distribution channels? Now, if you do wholesale or offer wholesale pricing, you have to go back to your pricing and incorporate that into your strategy and make sure, again, checking that it allows for enough profit and that side of it all stacks up. So that place is really important as well. That will also come about, in terms of who your target market are. So the question is, where do buyers look for your product or service? Well, you have to know about them to know where they're going to be consuming. For example, if it's a much older market, then perhaps, a solely online focus isn't the way to go. And that's just, I'm not saying that the older market don't like to shop online at all, but just as an example, knowing who your market is and what their consumer behaviors are is really important. Now, in terms of that research around consumer behaviors and basically everything we've spoken about today, think about areas, Australian Bureau of Statistics, there's tons of research, government research agencies, and free information that's available online on consumer behavior, consumer trends, and different industries. So keep that in mind. Promotion, the last P is basically your strategy around promoting your product or service. Where are you going to market it? How are you going to get to your market if you're attracting customers directly? Where specifically do they consume media and advertising, and what type of promotional methods are going to appeal for them? So here, again, you have to know your target audience very well to be able to determine where to promote your products and services. So it all links back to that target market. All right, so that was an absolute fly through of the development of a marketing strategy. It really does take time and patience while you research. We can talk about strategy all day. And I guess, we obviously don't have the time to do that. But the key point here is to understand that you can be very targeted and spend your funds, particularly if funds are limited, very, very well with a solid strategy behind you. So I would highly encourage you to really work through and develop your own marketing strategy. The benefits are absolutely huge. Obviously, the main benefit is that you compose that big picture. And you do that through pinpointing the specific target markets that you're going to serve, through determining your customers' needs and wants through market research, and making sure that your products and services are really still aligned with what those needs and wants are. It allows you to analyze your competitive advantages and what's different to you against your competitors and what makes you better than your competitors, essentially. Then you can build a marketing strategy around that. So to make sure that your marketing message really stands out. It also allows you to create a marketing mix that perfectly meets the needs and wants of your customers. So a few key considerations are, first of all, that your strategic planning has to match your resources and your capabilities. Otherwise, you just won't see long-term growth. So you have to factor in all components to get that big picture, and then plan based on what you know your business can achieve by way of staffing and financial resources. Now, to make it a bit easier for you, and I guess to get a broader view, I would highly recommend that you look at strategic planning as an integrated activity and involve as many areas of your business as you can. Now, there will be people in your business, perhaps you have a couple of staff. There might be staff on the front line, for example, and you might be more focused on the operational and sort of back end of the business. There could be key information that these people know that you haven't really given them a forum to share with you. So getting them to complete things like a SWOT analysis and a pest analysis is absolutely, you'll get gold information out of that. So I would consider to have a look at who's involved in your business and how can you get them involved in some of this research. What can they tell you about what they see on a daily basis? So I would recommend involve your entire team if you wish, or at least a selection of team members to talk about marketing. An annual marketing strategy day or, a couple of hour meeting is really, really helpful. It allows your staff to generate ideas, to give feedback, and allows you as a business owner or even as a marketer to understand some of the operational sides of things and what you're doing in marketing and how that can potentially impact other areas of the business. So keep that in mind as well, and share the load a little bit and get some research information from anyone that's involved in your business. So that really is the most important element of marketing on a shoestring budget. If you know exactly who you're talking to, what products they want, where they consume media, which is where you should be promoting your business, then no marketing dollar should be wasted. So keep that in mind and work through that strategy. Now we're going to look at some specific low-cost marketing activities that you might want to consider as well. Now, like I said, we're going to go into some of these activities, but do keep in mind that what I'm going through today is a very, very brief overview. There is a lot further information available on each one of these topics. So don't feel like, oh, she went through that so quickly, I have no idea what that even means. Just know that these are some really core areas that you should consider, and absolutely reach out if you want more information. First of all, the main thing I think is important in terms of marketing on a shoestring budget is making sure that your online setup is solid. Now, this is your website, this is SEO and remarketing at a minimum. So I'm going to talk through each of those. But absolutely seek referrals and reviews online. Make sure that you're listening to reviews that are given to you. Set up things like alerts so that you do get notified every time a review is left, so that you can respond to them straight away. So have a look at Google My Business. It's just changed its name to Google Profile. I think I'll have to double Business Profile actually. So that Google area is a fantastic start in terms of reviews. You might be getting reviews on Facebook, or there might be other industry specific review sites as well. So know what your industry specific review sites are. And really do that online audit of not only all of the review sites, but your website and your SEO as well. Which, like I said, we'll expand on a little bit more. In terms of your marketing, make it personal. So personalized marketing will have a lot more impact than broad, non-personalized marketing. So when you know who your target market is, you know exactly the type of products and services that they're after, and therefore, and the unique selling proposition of your business. So that's what you should be communicating. You can talk to your audience about what it is that they want, talk about relevant events at relevant times of year. Now think about your email marketing if you've got a database, and your social media here, where you get the opportunity to talk direct to people. If you are building an email database, you can add a lot of information there based on past sales history. It really depends on the structure of your business as to whether it's appropriate to build an email database. But if you do have a database where you know things like, and it's from past purchases, make sure that when you're communicating to that database, you are only giving them products and offers that are tailored to everything you know about them. And that could be age bracket, it could be past purchases, it could be the location that they live in. New customer offers are absolutely crucial in terms of marketing effectively. To get customers in is a really important thing. You always have to have new customers coming through, but once you've got them, they do cost very little to keep, subject to your customer service. So you obviously have to have your customer service at a very high level. But once you've got them in, stay in touch with them. Keep them in that cycle, engage with them via your social media, build that email database so that you can engage with them via email. Really get them to become brand advocates for you through this ongoing value that you offer to them. Now, there is a statistic that it costs something like 8 times more to get a new customer than it does to retain an existing. So yes, it's very important to create, to get new customers and create really interesting offers so that you can get them in, but keeping them is an absolutely key thing there as well. Your USP is absolutely crucial. You have to nail your value proposition. You have to really know what it is about you that stands out from your competitors and that is highly desired by your target audience. Once you have determined that, focus on developing content that really highlights that, and then storytell through your content. Tell the story of why your business is so good in this particular area, what it is about your products or services that makes you so unique and really ticks the boxes of what your customers want and need. PR is absolutely crucial. You can absolutely be your own PR advocate. So you don't need large scale media and PR agencies or anything like that. We actually have a media and PR webinar that will talk about getting free publicity and engaging with the media. It can be done by businesses of all sizes. So that's an opportunity to get publicity, which is obviously free and gets your message out to a much broader audience. So I would absolutely look at PR as a core component of marketing. Also, just on the PR side of things, when you do know what that unique selling proposition is and what it is that makes your business truly unique, that gives you a lot of things that you can talk to the media about. You might have, key people in your business. There might be awards that you're winning. There could be events coming up. But if it's all sort of centered around that unique value proposition, you'd be able to highlight that message. Sponsorship opportunities are really important as well. Now, people do approach small businesses a lot for sponsorship, and I think that can be really overwhelming, and it can be a little bit frustrating as well when you're a small business trying to get by and you've got people constantly hounding you for free product services or to give cash for some kind of donations and sponsorships. I would make sure that you set a bit of a budget around this and know what your limit is. So, we want to commit to giving away 5 free products a year. Once you've determined what that is, that your budget is, your sponsorship budget, whether it be cash donations, whether it be products and services sort of in kind, once you know what that is, that's obviously a really key thing to set a limit as well. But the next thing is make sure that you're only working with organizations whose target market perfectly matches your target market. If you can find those organizations where there's an opportunity for you to offer products and services to get exposure to their audience and it perfectly matches yours, then it can be a great opportunity for advertising, but also from a PR perspective. So really look at the target markets, and if they're aligned, fantastic. If they're not, then I would confidently say no to sponsorship opportunities. So really keep that in mind. Don't waste product services or marketing spend for sponsorship without understanding your target market and the target market of the audience for the organization that is asking. And my last point in terms of marketing on a shoestring is not to forget about grassroots marketing. So things like signs, handouts, billboards, even car signage, it's absolutely crucial. And a lot of those things are very low cost, but we tend to be so focused online and big picture stuff that we forget those little things sometimes. So I would definitely look at that. In terms of traditional marketing, I get asked often, what percentage of your budget should you spend on traditional marketing versus online? My thoughts around that are, I would consider any advertising or marketing opportunity that's presented to you, but I would have a look at having a really clear understanding, and having your strategy will allow you to go, do you know what, this isn't in our budget. Or this does not meet, our audiences do not match, therefore it's not a good opportunity. So again, knowing your target market will help you make decisions on all advertising and marketing. So looking at that alignment of target audiences between who your target is and the target audience of anyone that's asking you to spend money on advertising with them is really important. So definitely consider traditional marketing if it fits your budget and suits your target audience. So we're going to explore some of those key online marketing tactics now, and how best to market your business online. We're focusing online because every business, no matter your industry, should be online. You can really maximize your online presence to get new business, and you can capitalize on every marketing dollar spent. So I believe that online marketing or online advertising can be extremely targeted. It's obviously trackable. So it takes out the guesswork as to whether what you're doing is producing the right results. You can actually determine that, and determine it very quickly. Okay, so a fly through your website. Your website is at the core of your online marketing. It is only part of the strategy because potential customers have to be able to find that site. You also need to actively engage with current and future customers online as well. We'll talk a little bit more about being found shortly, but first, your website itself should be a place that customers can find out about your products and services. They should be able to make purchases, even if your bricks and mortar premises are closed, or maybe you're an online store only. But I would think of your website as your 24-hour a day, 7-day a week, your number one salesperson. So considering that, do you think your business, your website is doing your business justice? Is it selling your products and services at the level that it should? Some key design elements to consider are your images. They should be large hero images that really highlight and tell the story of your product. Your navigation should be easy. Test it with family and friends. Get them to try and buy something from your site and see how they move through your site. Calls to action are really important. They should be strong. A shop now, buy now, find out more, visit us. Those kind of messages should be repeated, and they should be very clear, so customers know exactly what to do and when to do it. It should be fully responsive or mobile friendly. So what you see on your screen is an example of a fully responsive site. So this basically means that it looks good no matter what device they appear on, whether it's desktop, tablet, or mobile. Your website will adapt its shape and adapt the menu structure depending on the size of the screen that your audience is viewing it on. Content is really important as well. There should be plenty of content. Your customers should be able to get enough information about your business, and the content should flow. Now, that also helps with your SEO, or how well you rank. Google needs content on the website to understand what your website and what your business is all about. So the imagery is obviously crucial to sell your product, but content is fundamentally important to the success of your results on search engines like Google. Now, keep in mind here that everything about your website should be speaking to and aimed at your target markets. Now, that incorporates design, colors, fonts, the technology that sits behind it, the functionality. It's all about your target market. So again, go back to defining who that target audience is, and that will sort of unlock some answers by way of your website design. So having that great website is crucial, but being found is the next element, and that's SEO, so search engine optimization. In very simple terms, that's the process of improving your site to increase its visibility for relevant searches. So for SEO to be effective, you have to know what people are searching. And that's where keyword research comes into it. I would do keyword research before you do any SEO or make any changes to your website. So what are people actually searching? What sort of volumes are there per month on those search terms? So have a look. There's a few tools. We actually have an entire keyword research webinar, which is absolutely fantastic in terms of, you know, learning how to do keyword research, because it is such a core part of what you do. There's a Google Keyword Planner tool. There's a couple of other online Google Chrome extensions that you can use, like Uber Suggest and Keywords Everywhere, where you can basically, you'll brainstorm a term and go, all right, I think people search Perth Cafe to get to my business. You type that in and it will tell you how many average searches there are per month on that term. If there were none, then there's no point focusing your entire SEO strategy around these key search terms if there's nobody searching them. You need to find some search terms where there is reasonable volume and then focus on those. So I mean, that's a very broad overview. Keyword research is very in-depth. So I would really encourage you, if you don't know much about the topic of keyword research, it should be done before any SEO is done on your website. So absolutely reach out and either speak to one of our advisors or join our webinar on keyword research, because it's fascinating and really unlocks a lot of keys to SEO. Now, SEO is a combination of hundreds of different tactical efforts. It changes and it evolves. So things that you might have done a few years ago might not be as significant today. So it really is important that you continuously fine-tune your SEO. It does take time, so you might make changes today. Let's say you do keyword research, you find some, well, you've obviously done your marketing strategy, you know who your target market is, you've done some keyword research, you find those words that are perfect for your business, make some changes to your website. It's going to be a few weeks to a month before you see any results. Now, because it is a constantly changing landscape, you have to make sure that you're keeping abreast of any algorithm changes and anything that might be coming up, and then adjust your SEO as well. So SEO incorporates on-page and off-page SEO. So I'm going to talk through those now. On-page SEO, is everything that happens on your website, whereas off-page SEO is everything that happens away from your website that directs people to your website. So a few things on your website that are important are your URLs. Make sure they're readable. So yourwebsite.com.au/about us, for example, as opposed to some kind of code at the end there. So it has to be readable and about, you know, what the page is all about. Internal links, so page-to-page linking of content. So for example, your homepage might talk about product A, product B, and product C. Where it mentions product A, that should be a clickable link to go to the page that talks about product A. It's easy for the customer and it's also great for SEO. So it saves, as a consumer, it saves us going back to your menu, finding the product A page and then going there. We can just, with one click, go straight through. So make sure that links to internal page of your site are available wherever you talk about things in and around your site. 301 redirects are really important. If you're taking down particular pages of your website, make sure there's a redirection. So if someone does happen to come across an old link through a Google search or some other way, make sure that they're not going to an error page. It's really important for the customer, but also for Google. Page load time is really important as well. So always keep an eye on your speed. Keep in mind, image sizes can impact that. Make sure you test it regularly so that you know you're not keeping people waiting. And consumers are just too impatient to sit there and wait, you know, a number of seconds for a page to load. And therefore, it's a really important ranking factor with search engines like Google as well. Now, there's also page title tags, meta descriptions, alt tags, and heading tags. So we're going to talk through these now in a little bit more detail because it's kind of getting a bit more technical. Now, page title tags is what you see here. So in the red box, each of the pages in your website should have its own unique title tag. Now that will include the main keywords for that page. So it's not the headline that's displayed on the page. It's only visible in code view. But Google and other search engines will use it to display as the main title in their search results. So what I was searching here is digital solutions Perth, and this is what has come up. So you can see digital solutions is first, and then small business advice, Business Station. The optimal length is about 60 characters, and that's long enough to display a good title without it getting cut off. Don't use stop words like the, is, and those kind of things. They have no SEO value whatsoever. So your primary keywords first, as you can see on this example here. Then you've got your meta description. So that's that second part that you can see highlighted in red on your screen. It's not visible in any part of your site except if you check the actual HTML code. So depending on the content management system you use, there might be an area behind the scenes when you log in to actually enter your meta description. But this is essentially the little description that's found under your title in a search results like this example. It doesn't affect your ranking in search engines, but if it's well written, it will encourage people to click through to your site. So it's like a mini ad for your webpage, and it's completely free. But keep in mind, if you don't enter a meta description, Google will do it for you. And the way Google does it is to take a little sample from the text of your pages. Sometimes that could be cut off or not really relevant to your keywords. So make sure that you take control of this and enter a unique meta description for every page on your site. Now, alt tags and heading tags. Alt tags on the left there are tags used for images. So they're essentially HTML tags that you can use to describe what an image is. So keep in mind, search engines can't see an image. So without a description, they've got no idea what it is or if it's relevant. So if they can find your image or crawl this part of your site and see that description, it obviously helps with the SEO on that site. Your image might appear in a Google Images search because it's labeled correctly. So keep that in mind. I would always include the local keywords or the title of the page, as well as what the image is. Heading tags, this starts to get really technical. So like I said, SEO is a very extensive topic, and we have specialist help by way of webinars, workshops, and advisors. But heading tags are important for SEO. They help not only the reader of your content, but also a search engine bot to determine what the content is on your page and how important it is. So it's weighted accordingly. And H1 heading is the most heavily weighted, and then H2, 3, 4, and so on. So the way I like to think about it is H1 should be what the entire page is about. So that's, what the heading of your page is. H2, 3, 4, and subsequent headings should be what those particular sections are about. So the title will be a bit smaller and weighted accordingly. So keep that in mind as well. That's how I would look at headings. Again, it's just a technical thing that's set up behind the scenes. You might have headings in the right sizes, but they're just not tagged correctly behind the scenes, so not helping you from an SEO perspective. So keep that in mind. So that's on-page SEO. Now, off-page SEO, that's actions that are taken outside of your own website to impact your rankings within search engine results pages. Now, off-page SEO tends to make up the majority of an SEO strategy because it takes time and effort. It'll help build the credibility of your website, essentially, is what you're trying to do, or the authority of your website. And you want your website to rank above others that have a similar message. So you have to spend time building its authority to be able to achieve that. Now, you can do it a number of ways. Link building through social media and also brand mention. So I'll talk through those. Link building is basically getting external pages to link to a page on your website. It can be complicated and it can be time consuming. Now, keep in mind that a link from an authoritative website will have much greater impact on a search engine result page than a link from a newly built site. So they're weighted, basically. If your site had 100 poor quality links and your competitor had 15 good quality links, there's a good chance that they'll rank higher than you. So keep in mind, Google has become very good at spotting scams here. You used to be able to do all kinds of dodgy things with regards to link building, but you simply can't anymore. So a link should always come from a trusted and reputable site, or a site that's relevant to your type of business. Generally, they're difficult to come by and you need some kind of human intervention to implement them. Things like memberships, working with other businesses. You know, if you genuinely have a business relationship, you're a supplier for a particular product, perhaps they mentioned you as a stockist or a supplier, those kind of business relationships, generally speaking, you may be able to have some kind of online relationship as well. They should really be likely to be clicked by the reader, or the audience. And they should be on a page that has content related to the content it's being linked to. So if you're talking all about, you know, a particular product and then it links to that product page rather than your home page is obviously preferable. Now, you can earn backlinks, you can build backlinks, so you can actually take the time to really go and work with organizations. You can create backlinks by looking at business directories and niche websites that are relevant to your business and really, you know, go out there and create them in that way. The other thing you can do is check out your competitors. So I would Google your competitors and have a look at what comes up on the search engine results page for them. All you need to do is literally do that. Google their name, see what websites they come up for. If those websites are relevant to your business, click through them and see if the page includes a backlink to their page, and maybe try and pursue the same opportunity for your website. Now, social media, I touched on, and it's a major topic that we have a lot of information available by way of advisors and webinars and workshops. But SEO, it's important to note from an SEO perspective, social media sends signals. So the activity that you've got happening online in terms of on social, in terms of likes, comments and shares is absolutely crucial for search engines. That kind of activity sends signals to them and it will really improve your search engine results. Brand mentions are really important as well. For example, you may have a blogger come and experience your product or service. That blogger writes a blog about you, making sure that if they've mentioned your brand, they've actually linked back to your website. Now, you can do things like a Google alert, set up a Google alert so that anytime your business name is mentioned online, you get an email from Google. Have a look at where it's been mentioned. And if it's an unlinked brand mention, ask for some kind of link, and that then creates a backlink for you. It's a fly through SEO. Now remarketing. So SEO is ranking organically, whereas SEM, search engine marketing, is where you can set up advertising and you pay per click. Now, again, that's a massive topic. We're not going to get into that today, but I'm just going to tell you about one form of pay per click advertising, which is remarketing. So you may have heard of it before. If you haven't, you most definitely have been a recipient of it. But done correctly, remarketing is really great for increasing brand awareness and influencing conversions, and it is really low cost as well. It's a simple concept. As you see on the diagram on your screen, you'll have a prospect that comes to your website some way or another. They may have seen your car drive past or clicked, on a social media link. Somehow they've got to your site. Google tracks them, and when they leave your site and your ads will then appear, in banners or pop-ups on other sites that they browse. So you only pay. So all of those impressions, every time they see your ad, it's free. But when they're ready to and they click, they'll go back to your website, and that's when you pay. So keep that in mind. Very low cost for that reason, but very high brand awareness is created as a result of remarketing. You do have to do a bit of technical setup to get it up and running for your business. But I think if you were to do no other online paid advertising, absolutely have a remarketing campaign running behind the scenes. Now, in terms of marketing effectively and doing so on a limited budget, controlling and measuring your marketing is absolutely crucial. Now, you should define your method of measurement before you launch any advertising. So how are you going to measure this? Is it through sales or leads? Is it your web stats? Is it, unique users, your page views, referral traffic? In social media, it could be engagement per post. So really determine what your method of measurement is before you launch any advertising, and also make sure that you've got some kind of monthly reporting set up so that you can track that. And really be able to evaluate your marketing activities, but you have to have that measurement defined. I would also recommend that you compare, obviously you've got goals. We've spoken about your marketing strategy and having goals set up. So compare those goals against your results and identify any deviations. Identify what the causes of those deviations are as well, and then perhaps formulate a new plan and action to correct a problem, or even if something's doing really well, how do you exploit that opportunity? I would highly recommend, in terms of controlling and measuring your marketing, and I guess your online marketing in general, stay disciplined and follow your price and quantity objectives, but do consider that conditions can change. Now, if conditions do change, sometimes it can be completely beyond your control. It can be things like weather, lockdowns, for example, which I really hope we're past all of that, but absolutely anything can happen that's beyond your control, and you will need to adapt your marketing to fit those new conditions. You may then also have to revise your objectives, your quantity objectives, and have a look at your sales to make sure that you have reset what you anticipated you'd get if there are changing conditions. But keep in mind, the best marketing plan is one that's reviewed often. So when you learn those lessons from one year, you can carry them over to the next, because you will have some kind of tangible reporting to actually track what's happened. Okay, so that wraps up our session on strategic marketing on a shoestring budget. I do hope it makes sense, and I hope there's some things that you can take out of this to improve, or at the very least to better understand your marketing and have the confidence that you can develop a marketing strategy yourself. Now, I am going to stay online and answer any questions, but keep in mind, like I said, with many of those topics, we've really just scratched the surface. So if you want to know more or talk about them, any further learning, you can reach out to us. The one-on-one sessions are available as part of our 7-hour package. Now, that is a federally funded program. It's only $44 for the 7-hour package. So it's 3 hours of one-on-one work with an advisor, and then a range of webinars and workshops to make up a minimum of 7 hours. So definitely take advantage of that if you can, because you will get that expert advice on a range of different topics, and most of those we've touched on today, but there is a lot more as well. There is a little bit of eligibility around that. So you have to be based in WA, Queensland or NT. You have to be operating for profit. And you have to employ fewer than 20 full-time staff. So if you do meet that criteria, please reach out. So that's it from me. Thank you so much for joining me, and thank you to those people that have popped a thanks on for me right now. If you've got any questions, shoot them through, but good luck with your marketing strategy, and I hope you do spend the time to get that done. And if you need any more info, let us know, and we can match you up with an advisor that can help.